Fasten your seatbelt. I am taking you for the ride of your life. I'm going to show you what this car can really do. Are you ready?
I am ready.
Hang on.
Okay.
Here we go.
Hold on to your butts.
Forget him, kid.
To infinity and beyond!
It might be a tumor.
It's not a tumor. Not a tumor at all.
So you can go ahead and ask me what you're going to ask me, and my natural response could be to get offended.
Well, fine, let's talk about it. Any thoughts of your own on this matter? Or is that your thing? You come into a bar, you read some obscure passage, and then pretend you pawn it off as your own idea just to impress some girls?
Just another American who saw too many movies as a child.
Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man.
All right.
You're listening to the 30-something Movie Podcast. One movie each week, 30 years in the making. It is the 30-something Movie Podcast. It's John, it's Pat, it's Bo, it's Dennis, it's the Crow. Gentlemen, how are you doing?
Excited to talk about a great movie.
Mm-hmm. I know. I said gentlemen. You got a weird look on your face, Dennis. I said gentlemen, but you can answer too.
I know. I was like, who? The old Three Stooges who walked in.
Who walked in? I'm sorry, Dr. Howard, Dr. Fine, Dr. Howard. How are you? We're fine.
Howard, Dr. Fine.
Yes.
We graduated with the highest temperatures in our class.
There you go. Well, this one is The Crow. So I've been looking forward to this one for a while. This was one of my favorite movies of the 90s. So I'm excited we get around to this one. Not at the same level as 4 years earlier being like, The Crow! I'm looking forward to The Crow. That's the one I'm looking forward to. Like, not Pat levels of excitement, but I really, really enjoyed this movie.
It's really hard to hit that Pat level of excitement.
It is. I mean, Pat's level of excitement graduated with the highest temperature in his class.
Indeed.
That's true. That's true.
So, since this is our first week in the month, this is our month of vengeance movies or Rewenge movies. First week in the month of February, we are going to hop in that DeLorean and we are going to head back to 1994.
When this baby hits 88 miles per hour, you're gonna see some serious.
All right, so this month in February of 1994, February 12th, some top news here. February 12th, The Scream by Norwegian painter Edvard Munch. The 1893 pastel version was stolen in Oslo. And I'm sure a lot of people screamed when that happened. February 28th, the Brady Law was passed, imposing a wait period to buy a handgun in the USA, based on the Brady Bill and all that went along with that. Some famous births. We had actually quite a few famous births during this month. February 1st, the British pop singer Harry Styles from One Direction was born in Redditch, England. February 6th, the English actor Charlie Heaton, who played Jonathan Byers in Stranger Things, was born in Leeds, England. And February 23rd, the American actress Dakota Fanning, who was in I Am Sam and Man of Fire, was born in Conyers, Georgia. So quite a few people born. One death in particular that I wanted to point out on February 6th, the American comic book artist, cartoonist Jack Kirby, who worked on X-Men, Spider-Man, DC characters, Hulk, Captain America, died at age 76. So a bunch of the stuff that you end up seeing, I mean, the whole character of Darkseid that you see in the Justice League movie, and a lot of that stuff was Jack Kirby stuff, and he did a lot of work with X-Men and all that. So big, huge name in comics. I mean, up there with Stan Lee. So if you probably know Stan Lee if you watch a Marvel movie that was ever made. But Jack Kirby might not be as familiar to you, but he was a giant in the comic book world. Top sports, we had the 44th NBA All-Star Game at the Target Center in Minneapolis, Minnesota. The East beats the West, 127-118. The MVP was Mr. Scottie Pippen from the Chicago Bulls. And on February 27th, the Winter Olympic Games close in Lillehammer, Norway. Top books for the month of February was Disclosure by Michael Crichton and Accident by Danielle Steele. Top movies were Ace Ventura: Pet Detective, starring Jim Carrey, Sean Young, Courtney Cox, Tone Loc, and Dan Marino. Laces out, Dan. And also another top movie for the month was On Deadly Ground, starring Steven Seagal and Michael Caine. Giants of acting right there. Top songs were All for Love by Bryan Adams, Rod Stewart, and Sting, and The Power of Love by Celine Dion. So a lot of love in February. Makes sense. It's Valentine's month.
Mm-hmm.
So, all right. So we're going to jump on into our trivia pursuits. This section of the show is where we give you a little bit of background information on the movie. We break the movie down into 10 major moments for you to kind of give you an overview of what's going on in the movie if you haven't seen it or haven't seen it lately. Then we've also got some trivia stuff in this section. We give you a quick synopsis, play the trailer audio for you, and then after that we get on into our deeper thoughts, and that's where we kind of share our opinions on the movie, even though we jumped a little bit and started sharing ahead of time. That's okay. We're all friends here. We're all fine here now. How are you?
Yes.
What's your operating number?
Yeah, boring conversation anyway. This movie came out on May 13th, 1994, rated R, with a runtime of 1 hour, 42 minutes, directed by Alex Proyas, who did Dark City, another amazing movie, and iRobot. I actually can't wait to do Dark City. I really like that movie, and I have not watched that one in a while. I believe it is on the Blu-ray shelves back here. Oh, I guarantee it's on the Blu-ray shelves here somewhere, but yeah, I really enjoyed that movie.
Great film.
Yeah. I'm going to paraphrase the Bible and do this in such a way so that I don't insult Pat at the same time. And I'm not saying this to belittle the movie I'm going to reference.
Nope, I know what you're going to say because you told me.
Okay.
It's all good.
Okay, all right. When I was a child, I spoke like a child. I watched The Matrix like a child. I enjoyed The Matrix like a child, and I still enjoy The Matrix. But when I became an adult, I watched Dark City, and it blew my mind. And I really, really enjoyed it. But I still also really love The Matrix.
Well, and Dark City was a pretty big influence on The Matrix, yeah?
Yeah. Well, they both came out around about the same time, so.
Oh, okay. Maybe it wasn't a really big influence.
Let's see. Well, no, Dark City was 98. It came out the year before.
Okay.
Yeah.
I couldn't remember whether you told me it was an influence upon or similar in the vein of, I think.
I would imagine that the screenplays were probably getting thrown around about the same time, would be my guess.
Okay.
But Dark City did come out before Matrix. I didn't watch Dark City until after I had seen The Matrix. So to me, in my mind, Matrix came out first. But both equally amazing movies.
Indeed.
Yeah.
There it is.
Yeah. So let's see. What do we got? We're never going to get through this. That was only the director. Writers, David J. Shaw and John Shirley. Shaw did Leatherface, The Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I will not. Texas Chainsaw Massacre 3, The Search for Spock. Critters 3, The Search for Spock. And then Shirley did Eclipse and Deadfall. Producers were Edward Pressman and Jeff Most. Pressman did Wall Street and American Psycho. Most did The Specialist, doing that one next week, and then Hackers. A composer was Graham Revell, who did From Dusk Till Dawn and Sin City. Cinematographer was Darius Wolski, who did Pirates of the Caribbean, Curse of the Black Pearl, and Prometheus. Editors were Dov Heinig and Scott Smith. Heinig did The Fugitive, Hard Rain. Smith did Last of the Dogmen and Falling Down. Production company was Dimension Films and Miramax Films. Budget $23 million. Box office $94 million. Flickmetrics gives it a 73%. Cinema Score could not get a cinema score for this one. Let's see. Characters and actors in this one. Brandon Lee, who died in 1993 as this movie was being made, played Eric Draven. He was in Rapid Fire and Showdown in Little Tokyo. Ernie Hudson was Sergeant Albrecht. He was in Ghostbusters and Miss Congeniality. Michael Wincott was Top Dollar. He was in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, and Basquiat. He was Rochelle Davis, played Sarah. She was in Hell House and Trespassers. Bai Ling played Micah. She was in Red Corner and Crank High Voltage. Sophia Shinnis was Shelley Webster. She was in Terminal Velocity and the Outer Limits TV series. Anna Levine also known as Anna Thompson, was Darla. She was in Unforgiven and Dogville. David Patrick Kelly was T-Bird. He was in The Warriors and Twin Peaks TV series. Angel David played Skank. He was in Platoon and Kiss of Death. And Lawrence Mason was Tintin. He was in Hackers and The Lincoln Lawyer. All right, some quick trivia on this one. And if you guys have any other trivia, feel free to jump in. But so the first couple things I've got, this is an adaptation of James O'Barr's 1989 comic book by the same name, which he actually created to deal with the death of his fiancée. If I remember correctly, I want to say she was killed by a drunk driver. And writing this story was his way to deal with her death.
That is correct.
Is that correct? Okay.
It was a drunk driver, yep.
Okay,
Yep.
that's what I thought.
For the wedding.
Yeah.
He went to the military, he went to the Marines to deal with it.
Yes.
Yep.
Yeah. And then, so this is part of the story. I mean, we're not going to talk about this movie without getting into this, but this is obviously the movie where Brandon Lee died because of an accident involving a prop gun. So the information that I was able to pull together for this were that in some scenes they were using real bullets without gunpowder to try to enhance some of the realism of close-up shots. And then on March 31st, 1993, at the studio they were filming at in Wilmington, North Carolina, they were shooting a scene where the character of Eric Draven is shot, and Brandon Lee was fatally wounded with that. It was a .44 Magnum Smith & Wesson model 629 revolver, and it was supposed to fire a blank round. I believe it was a scene where was it Top Dollar was supposed to shoot him, and it was
I think it was Fun Boy.
Oh, was it Fun Boy? Okay.
It was either Fun Boy or it was what was the other one? I think it was. I want to say it was Fun Boy because the way I'm pretty sure it was Fun Boy, but the other guy. What's the other guy?
Yeah, it was one of them because, you know what, now that I'm thinking about it, it was the scene where he comes in on them attacking his fiance.
Yeah.
And they shoot him and push him out the window. But it was supposed to be a pretty...
Fun Boy was the other one, but yeah, I think it was Fun Boy. Who's the other? Something, God, the guy in the car, I think it was the one that...
Oh.
T-Bird. One of those two.
T-Bird.
It might have been T-Bird. It's either T-Bird or Fun Boy, yeah.
Okay.
Because that actress has to respond because he stopped acting for a while and didn't, Yeah.
The .44 Magnum was the revolver was supposed to fire a blank round. However, there had been I guess a mishandling of the prop gun, and a real bullet was lodged in the barrel. And then the crew, because they were under time and budget constraints, they were kind of making their own cartridges for this, and they were kind of inadvertently creating a situation where a bullet could become trapped in the barrel. I believe also the firearms specialist had been sent home earlier in the day, and the prop assistant.
You go home. We don't need you anymore.
Yeah, we don't need you. Go ahead and go home. The prop assistant, who did not know about some of these other safety procedures, was the one who loaded the blank rounds, and that ended up leading to this accident. So did I get most of that correct? Was there anything I missed?
Well, I'll clarify something because it wasn't the bullet left in there. What it was there's a couple articles on one was from the Post because it was like after the whole Alec Baldwin thing.
Oh yeah.
You can go back and there's a story on an actor who fatally shot Brandon Lee in 1993 movie Tragedy was also traumatized. Yeah. And it is Michael Massey. It was Michael Massey. It was the one who was playing Fun Boy.
Okay.
So what it says here, and this is what I had looked up. I had seen this before and I kind of remember because it was never fully just the bullet. And I think part of it was because they were also, I forgot, there was a lot of other things that happened on set that kind of were happening and screwing things up a bit.
Oh yeah.
They were kind of like in a rush too. Yeah, and there was like some rush about something. Somebody had fallen, or one of the crew, whatever guys. He was supposed to shoot him at close range with a harmless pistol, but when Massey fired the .44 Magnum revolver, the gunpowder in the blank cartridge ignited a bullet fragment that became embedded in the barrel, propelling it to Lee's body about 15 feet away. I remember they said it was like a quarter-size hole in his abdomen that hit off the bag that he was carrying because he was walking in with the bags. The fragment was apparently part of a dummy shell that became lodged in the barrel. It was known as a squib load. During a previous scene, without anyone realizing it, hit Lee with virtually the same force as a live round. So the actor died on the operating table after 6 hours of emergency surgery, leaving Massey devastated and forcing him to take a lengthy sabbatical. And he did it in the new 2016 article about the actor's death from stomach cancer at age 64. So you wonder how much of that played a role in that too.
Yeah.
Because just the fact of that, yeah. He said, what happened to Brandon was a tragic accident. It's something I'm going to have to live with. It took me time to look. It took me the time it took to be able to not so much put it in perspective, but to be able to move on with my life. He told Extra in 2005. It's very personal. It's something that I want to make sure when I work it that it's never repeated. Therefore, I'm very conscious of things going awry on set. So, yeah, so it was a bullet fragment because what I had heard was they did a close-up scene of something with the gun and they used those real bullets and something with that. And then all of a sudden they took those out very quickly and they didn't make sure that the complete chamber was clear. And there was just a lead fragment that was in there. The lead fragment, when they reloaded it with the blanks, obviously enough force to push out that lead fragment. And that's what went through and put I think a quarter size hole in him. Is what we had seen, and they didn't realize it until after that he was down and bleeding. So, yeah.
Sad loss.
Yeah. Well, and because of all this, so one of the interesting things about this movie too is that because of his death during the filming of this movie, and they were trying to decide if they were going to finish the movie to begin with, there were thoughts of not even finishing the movie. But one of the other interesting things about this, some other interesting trivia, is this is one of the first movies where you had a lot of digital work done to replace a actor who had passed away, whether face or body. And there were several different examples of this. This was the first, actually I believe this is the first digital face replacement since Jurassic Park. I think last year, 93 would have been the last year for us on the show here. That was the first time it happened, was in Jurassic Park. And then this movie used it more extensively because they oftentimes were putting his face on a body double. Most of his scenes had been filmed. My understanding was he only had about 3 days of filming left. And so they had, inserting him into the film with different backgrounds. And there's a scene where when he first enters the apartment after digging himself out of his grave, there's footage of him walking through an alley where rain was digitally composited into the scene. There's a shot of him falling out the window that was made by digitally compositing his face with simulated blood onto a body double. The scene where he puts on his makeup when he becomes the Crow for the first time was filmed using a double. The face in the smashed mirror was his computer-altered face to fit the shards of glass. There's also a scene with an image of Eric Draven walking towards the window with the Crow on his shoulder. That was a double with Lee's face added with some lightning flashes in the background. So a lot of stuff probably being used in that way for the first time or to that degree also ended up happening because of his death during the making of this movie. So there were some other CGI advancements were made because of the necessity of wanting to finish the film.
Yep. And then I know one of the other things too is obviously shadow work and stuff, and where they did things in the shadow with the stuntmen as well and use that.
Yeah.
But one of the, I guess the more plot story changes too was there was supposed to be another character that was supposed to be the guide, like a guide of him. I forgot what the name of the character was. And because of him not being able to interact with him and film those scenes, they just thought it would be stupid. So I remember they said it wouldn't make any sense and people would be, so that's where then the voice of the girl becomes kind of your narrator in this case. And instead of the other character being there, they just took that character out.
Yeah. Yep. All right.
And now this, I mean, I don't know, we'll probably get back into it, but and it may sound weird because I'm using a movie and then I don't know why, but like when I watched this movie, the only thing I was trying to think of comparing it to was whenever I watched The Great Escape, and since we were kids, whenever I watch that movie, I always think or hope that when I watch it this time, that Steve McQueen gets away. He's able to
you want him to get that jump.
You always, no matter what, when you watch it, what's going to happen, but you actually suspend the idea in your head and you think maybe this time when I watch it, I remember as a kid thinking he's going to make it, like he's going to make it, he's going to get away. And so there's a certain disappointment to that. And with this movie, whenever I watch this movie, I just picture him living. Not like as a character, but as the actor somehow. And it's a bittersweet, weird feeling that I get from this movie when I watch it, and it's because it's so good, and it's such a shame, and it's that he didn't get to be in more things because very, very Heath Ledger-ish too. Heath Ledger obviously had a long body of work before him that preceded his death, but at the same time, when you see the performance in The Joker, you're just thinking, God, like how many more awesome characters would this man have portrayed? And I think that while maybe you can argue like he wasn't at that level, but like for this character, I'm just like, they did all those not remakes, but sequels. And I'm just like, Brandon Lee's the Crow.
Yeah.
Brandon Lee's the Crow. It's just, it's a love story too. It's like kind of not the whole thing of it just being a vengeance movie, but it's very much a love story, and that works because of him. And I don't know any other character that, so I always have the weird mixed feeling when I watch this movie.
Yeah.
Because there is that melancholy sort of feel to it as well. Like it's so good. And while on one end, I think wasn't it was it his fiance that wanted them to carry on with the movie, or the family, or it was who gave it kind of its blessing because they were going to stop and they weren't going to do it?
Yeah, it was Brandon Lee's family. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, so glad that they did, because it like that would have been lost if they just buried it.
Right.
And it would have been a disservice to him as well. So
yeah.
It's just a tragic, man. It's a weird,
yeah. All right, so we're going to give you the synopsis. We're going to play the trailer audio for you. Then we'll run through 10 major moments to kind of break everything down. And then we'll get on into some of our deeper thoughts, talk about the first times we saw this one, and go from there. So, in a world ravaged by crime and corruption, Eric Draven, resurrected by a mystical crow, returns from the dead on a relentless quest for vengeance. With the help of Sergeant Albrecht, he faces the brutal gang led by Top Dollar and his ruthless partner Micah. In the shadowed streets of the city, Eric's undying love for Shelley transcends death. In this tale of tragedy and retribution, The Crow, where justice is eternal.
People once believed that when someone dies, a crow carries their soul to the land of the dead. But sometimes, just sometimes, the crow can bring that soul back to put the wrong things right.
You're all going to die.
Is that gasoline I smell?
Victims, aren't we all?
All right. So the 10 major moments for this one. We start with Shelley's attack and Eric's death. On Devil's Night in Detroit, Shelley Webster is brutally attacked and her fiancé Eric Draven is killed by a gang. Sergeant Albrecht comforts Sarah, a young girl who is close to both Shelley and Eric. We will find out later that Shelley was working to try to make some things better in the neighborhood, and the gang attacked her specifically because of that. A year later, a crow is tapping on Eric's gravestone and resurrects him. He returns to his old apartment where he is haunted by flashbacks of the attack that night and discovers his newfound healing abilities. Guided by the crow, Eric finds and kills Tintin, one of the gang members responsible for his and Shelley's deaths. Eric forces Gideon, the pawn shop owner, to return Shelley's ring and then destroys the shop, leaving Gideon alive as a warning to others and to the gang. After killing Funboy, another gang member, Eric confronts Darla, Sarah's estranged mother, compelling her to reconsider her life and care for her daughter. Eric meets with Albrecht and shares his supernatural experience, learning about Shelley's prolonged suffering before her death and wanting to avenge her death even more than he had before. Eric kidnaps and kills T-Bird, another gang member, setting his car ablaze in the process. During a gunfight at Top Dollar's meeting, Eric kills Skank, the last gang member. Top Dollar and a few others escape. Eric goes to rescue Sarah, who's been kidnapped by Grange, one of the gang members. During the confrontation, the Crow is injured, weakening Eric's immortality. And then finally, Eric faces Top Dollar on the church's roof, transferring Shelley's pain to him and leading to Top Dollar's death. Eric then returns to the grave, reuniting with Shelley's spirit, and Albrecht and Sarah are left to move forward. Those are our top 10 major moments, and now we're going to get into some of our deeper thoughts.
And now, Deep Thoughts.
I have an opinion on this matter.
Don't mince words, Bones. What do you really think?
I like it a lot. Wow. It's very deep. Thank you.
All right. First time you saw this one. Pat, you said you saw it in the theater?
Yeah, we went to the theater and saw this guy. I'm trying to think.
Was this when the original came out, Pat, or was this the re-release that they did at theaters? They re-released this in the theaters later, some years later.
I saw it. I saw it in '94. I was in high school. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I was like sophomore, junior in high school, and yeah, we went out and all saw this.
Nice. Yeah, I didn't see this until a little bit later. This I saw. When did I see this? I feel like I saw this with friends. I think I was still living in England when it came out. I think it came out on video, and I think we rented it, and it was probably we were over at somebody's house, and they're like, "Yeah, I just got a copy of that movie, The Crow," and so we all sat down, we all watched it. I don't remember seeing it in the theater, but I definitely remember watching it pretty soon after it came out. So this was probably a rental for me in middle school. And loved it, because I remember I would pick up they had a couple of different comic book magazines that they did over in England, and I remember there was a lot of buzz around the comic book, like people picking up the comic book now that the movie had come out. And so I remember getting some of those comic magazines, and that they'd be commenting on the movie and commenting on the original comic and all that stuff. And obviously there's all the story about Brandon Lee being killed, so it was a big deal in all those magazines as well. But yeah, that was not a movie going experience for me. It was a rental.
This was the first time I'd seen it.
Oh, really?
Oh.
We were wrong. We thought maybe Pat, and then we thought I was wrong. John was right. I thought both for sure saw this, but all right.
Hold on. I was recording that, right? If I got the. Okay, yeah, good. Okay.
Yeah, I was wrong.
Well, I have a multitude of questions. Bo, first time watcher. What, if you don't mind, John, if I jump in here?
No, go for it.
What'd you think? Like initial reactions.
You know, it was interesting. It took me a little while to get into it. I don't know if it was a headspace thing at the time or what, but I think it just took me a little while. But once I got into it, I liked it. I think it was hard not to place it in. Since it was the first time I'd seen it, it was hard not to think about it in today's terms. And I felt I was missing some story at times. And knowing what I knew about it going in, I didn't know if it was related to the fact that he died. Maybe they didn't get to shoot some stuff. And the more I read, it sounded like, no, they pretty much shot all they planned to. There were definitely some points where I was like, could have used a little more story there. And I don't know if that's the style they were going for, or if it's just me wanting to know more. Like, I wasn't sure why. I just felt like there were some points where I could have used a little more backstory, maybe a little more, I don't know.
So I have to jump in. What parts do you feel like you needed more backstory on?
I don't think I quite I don't think I got the whole thing with the Crow being connected to his power. Like, I feel like that took me a long time for it all to settle in for me. I don't know. It was definitely stuff where I was like, oh, okay, I get that now. And maybe a little more of I think I had trouble keeping the bad guy straight for a little while. I was like, wait a minute, who works for who here? And I was like, okay. It took me, there was a few points where I just felt like I needed a little more. And the reality of it is, I know there's a couple more of these, if I read everything correctly. And
yeah, they did some sequels.
Maybe it gets explained more there. I don't know.
I think with The Crow, it's best to take the Highlander philosophy, and there can be only one.
Noted.
Don't watch the
I
rest.
agree. Yeah, I mean the Vincent Perez one was a little bit like watchable, but like I think it was the third one.
City of Angels, or was the third one?
Yeah, I think it was City of Angels one was a little bit, but not like there's still like John said, there's only the one Crow.
And honestly, I don't even know if I've seen the other ones. I feel like I've heard about the other ones, but I feel like I just kind of said, you know what? If I'm going to watch The Crow, I'm just going to go back and watch The Crow.
I think I only saw the City of Angels one with Vincent Perez. I think that was the only other one that I ended up watching. It was on like cable or something, and I ended up sitting down and watching part of it. I was like, yeah. But yeah, nowhere near. Yeah. It's interesting because if we were, because a lot of time, I think I still have never done the top movies and all that thing that we're supposed to do. But
that thing from like 7 years ago.
7 years ago, yeah.
I'm still waiting on your episode, Dennis.
I was waiting for a phone call.
I think we should just do one with AI.
But
we should make an AI Dennis and do the episode that way.
I feel like I've recorded enough of Dennis's voice. I'll just record his episode, and it'll just be him saying, "Yep, John was right."
I was wrong. Yeah, it's put in like every single other episode.
I'll just, you know what? I'll list my top 5 movies, and then I'll just have a sound clip of you going, "Yep, John was right. I was wrong." Those movies are better than what I was going to say.
You just use the "I was wrong" part in the episode with falling down with me and Pat.
Yeah, there you go.
I think you just need to take the words that Dennis has spoken over the years and piece together words that say, "My favorite movie is Howard the Duck."
There you go.
Oh, look at that.
All right.
A low blow.
Anger, rising.
Speaking of Avengers movies,
we're a wing gang.
Oh, note to self.
Yeah, I on this movie, I would actually this would be it would be in the running with one of my top 10. And I don't know if it's the time period, and I don't know if that's what throws some of this off or makes it more meaningful for one person over another. I don't know. Like, as you saw it, I'm old enough to know the Brandon Lee thing, and I'm devastated that Brandon Lee's dead. I don't know if that plays into the experience of the movie or not, but you already know. And I felt like there was enough. And like I said before, it's really a love story. And I think like the flashbacks do just such a great job of, to me, filling in the holes that you need for that story. And it explains in the beginning where the girl says like that you can't rest. And that basically the Crow gives you this ability to come back and right the wrong so that you can rest in peace. And I think it sums it up. I think it finishes it. You got these bad guys who are kind of ruining the town. It creates this fictional, or what seems very realistic, little space on the planet where you just feel like there's either the cops really can't do much. And there's a helpless feeling for everybody. The streets, it's so dark, and it just creates this feeling run by crap that's just, I don't know. I don't know if there's much more to fill. I don't know what I would be. And I would have deemed this as one of those movies that I often use the phrase of like, if I were to rewrite this, is there something I would have done differently? Other than Brandon Lee not getting killed in this film, I don't think there is. So I think it works really well. And I think even every character is just like Ernie Hudson, the girl, the bad guys. I could pick them all apart. Like I kind of knew all of them. They're all sitting around the table, and right from that one table where the fired up. It's just like, you know who the people were, I just need to know that these people are just kind of just nasty, evil people.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And there's a good force that comes in that's not a monster, that's doing this out of like, you can't rest. And the pain of like the whole transition sequence when he comes out, I love that because it's not like he just pops out of the dead like this monster and goes ahead and starts kicking. It's like he goes through pain. Like the first thing he does is scream. And then as he's walking, he can barely walk, and he's pulling the clothes off. And as he goes up, he's stumbling almost, and his hands are trembling as he opens the door. I just felt like all that was so good to just let you kind of really in this guy's pain. And even the line at the end where he says, "I've been carrying this pain for so now, whatever, and now it's yours. I'm giving it to you." I mean, all of that is there because he's not like a perfect kid. It took him a little while to understand that he was invincible, that he had this power, you know. And then finally he does that kind of free fall off the thing, you know, and that's the moment where he kind of laughs at the bottom. It's like he's kind of got this, like, dude, I can do this type of thing. And even then there's moments of, it's a weird portrayal, but I think, like, I don't know why I used to think of like The Last Temptation of Christ with Willem Dafoe.
Oh yeah. Uh-huh.
He played a very confused Jesus, and it's like, I'm God, I'm not. How dare I think I'm God or the Son of God? Like he struggled with his divinity because he was a man in divinity, and I feel like there's a lot of that here, where here's this guy who has these supernatural powers but doesn't quite get it. He's still sometimes hurt and still sometimes affected. He didn't turn in this invincible Superman just walking down the street. And I think that's a powerful film, in my opinion. It's a love story. So
I really like Brandon Lee's voice in this. I think because he's just like, well, Dennis, did I interrupt? Did you want to?
No. Go ahead. This is I actually took. This is one of the times I took notes on this movie again when I rewatched it. So
and I'm curious why you think I didn't see this movie too. I'm just curious your thought process too. But I loved his voice because, and this is going to be recency bias, I feel like so many of the movies that we watch now, the main character or the whatever is going to talk like this, or is going to do the Christian Bale in Batman, which I don't want to disparage that because that was kind of the first time it happened, and I don't want to hate on it, but it's like now every character speaks with this like gravelly tough guy voice. In this, I think the way he delivered the lines really humanized him through the makeup. He had such an innocent voice. It in a way, it normalized the fact that you're dealing with like an undead superhero kind of thing, right? Yeah. It in a good way, it took a little bit of the mystic out of it because the imagery was mystic. The fact that his hand would heal was mystic. The paint was mystic. The flashbacks were mystic. Everything was. But when you had the interactions with him and the kid, or him and
Sarah, the girl, or the cop.
The cop.
Yeah.
It was just like three people talking. Do you know what I'm saying? And the Brandon Lee's voice, like that choice, really, that was like the link to who he really was, or who he was previously.
Like, I think there's where he's like, it also had elements of, and I'm going to probably compare this a couple times to like the portrayal of Heath Ledger with the Joker, where they disappear in that character, and it becomes, that's why I said there's no other Crow besides Brandon Lee, and there's no other Joker now besides, in my opinion, Heath Ledger. But like, he does actually get a kind of a weirder voice at times. When he's with Tintin in the alley, there's a part, I forgot what he says, if it's something like this, and I'm sure there's a couple things where he says where he almost sounds demonic to a certain point because he's just the rage inside of him. And then there's other times where it's very quiet in tone and very innocent, and it's like, especially when he's talking to Sarah and things like that, can't rain all the time, you know, the little funny things he says too, where it's like, with what's his name, and you're still wearing your hat, like
yeah.
Like, yes. there's so many of those things that like he balances, like it comes out of him at certain times. And even with the Tintin, when he talked about the struggle, if you remember when he had him up against the wall and he's got Tintin like at a disadvantage right now, he's ready where he can just kill him basically. And he all of a sudden, Tintin talks about, yeah, I shanked that, da-da-da-da-da, and like basically insults his wife. And he just drops his head in pain like he can't hear that. And he's like becomes human again, like where he's just like totally like vulnerable, and then the guy hits him, and then he gets away, and then the fight ensues. But it's like those little moments where he's just struggling with this, like he's still this hurt. The grief that comes out from his character is immense, and I think he just does such a great job of the vulnerability with the grief, with the power. There's moments where he's powerful and he has great lines, when it's like, just victims, aren't we all? And then there's other There's just perfectly done. I just don't know where I would have changed anything. I think the
mother for a child.
Oh God, that quote's awesome. I've used that. I can't
do it justice. I can't remember, but it was basically,
mother is the name for God, the lips and hearts of all children. Do you understand?
Yeah. And then he grabs her arm.
Line, it's like, bam. Yeah. You don't have to say anything else. It's just like, that's it.
Yeah, like
amazing when he says that, and it changes, and then like even that scene with the girl, where then the girl's like having breakfast with mom, and mom's making eggs, and she burns them, and that's such a great scene too. Like, I don't know, like character development, I'm not sure how much more I wanted, because this is the girl that's pretty much been taken care of by them, and she has got a mother who's strung out, and that you could fill in the gaps of the story, is my opinion on it, where you don't need to see all that because you kind of know just through the scenes you do. And I think that's also such kind of a touching scene where the girl like starts to be like kind of pissed at mom, and she's like says something to her, and then the mom's like, oh, I've never been good at this mommy stuff, and she's frustrated, she's gonna throw away the eggs, and she's like stops, and she goes, no, over easy, I like them over easy. Like little moments like that, I think I don't know, I just love this film.
Yeah. Well, I love all the kind of the dark and grittiness of it, like how it fits so well with like some of the elements of like a film noir, and I feel like the director, didn't I read somewhere the director had been a music video director?
Yes.
Yeah, and it's some of those like stylistic choices. It's like the stylistic choices of a music video director that we see in some of the other movies we've covered, where originally this director did music videos. There's something visually different about that, and I think sometimes that doesn't work for a full-length movie, but in this one it does. It absolutely does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The window exit with the shush. I'm guessing, my guess is the way they filmed that is he crawled into the window and said shush.
Yeah.
They reversed it because the way he does it, it's like it sucks him out.
Yeah.
And it's like the way I played that one back a few times. I'm like, I think that's what they did. He probably crawled in, said shh, and then they cut. And then basically you do shh, and then you just reverse the film because it like almost sucks him right out like a shadow.
Yeah.
And then like you said, the walking down. I love the scene where he's walking down the alley and they film it through the heat of the fire. Mm-hmm. So it's got that warped kind of like asphalt heat coming up when you see the in summer, when you see kind of the what do you call it, the kind of, what's the term for that, just the heat, the simmering heat, like it kind of blurs and distorts the visual, and he's walking down the alley with that kind of pose, and that's kind of the poster I think for the film too, is maybe that shot. The window scenes, like where he's up by the window, it's just it's visually, it's just a phenomenal film too. Just so many cool shots in this.
And I do love about this movie, like a lot of people will refer to this movie as a superhero movie because it's based on a comic book. But what I love about this is there's so many different things where it even kind of pokes fun and really kind of subverts a lot of those superhero tropes. One of my favorite lines in the movie is when he and the police sergeants are sitting there, and he's like, it makes me think of Batman. And he's like, "Are you going to vanish into thin air again?" He's like, "No, I just thought I'd use your front door."
Yeah,
that was good.
The whole vanishing thing is like played throughout it, and then at the end, it's like with the girl when he does that a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's the scenes when he dances away too, or he does a kind of side shuffle off. Yeah.
It's like a little bit of if you mixed the Joker with Batman into one character, like you've got a good mixture of it.
Yeah, you shouldn't smoke these; they'll kill you.
Yeah.
The guitar solo visuals. That's like when you talk about music. I was thinking, oh my god, yeah, the guitar solo is just two of them, and it's like when he's on the roof and it's like, it's Try harder. Yeah. Try again.
This movie, in a lot of ways, this movie is so very 90s. Like there's so much about it that you see it later on because we get. At the end of the 90s, you've got the Matrix. You've still got everybody in their kind of very goth-looking costumes, the long black trench coats, that whole aesthetic. And I feel like this is really one of the first times, it might not be the first time, but I feel like this is one of the first times where you really have kind of a mainstream movie that is featuring that kind of goth look to it. But yeah, very, very, and it just fits so well with the whole story, the love story, the tragedy, the everything, the revenge piece of it, and then thinking about not just quote unquote like goth kids that might have had in high school, but like Gothic literature itself, going back to some of the different themes that are in Gothic literature. It does such a great job of bringing a lot of that into this movie, so that if you know, and you get some of the little Easter eggs that are dropped in there. I do love, even though a raven and a crow are very different things, I do love that he does a little quoting of Edgar Allan Poe's The Raven. Did you hear me? Cool. Didn't you hear me rapping?
Rapping at your. Yep.
Yeah.
And because I know, Bo, you said you didn't see the connection with the crow, but I think that one of the first lines of the movie is the part where it was people once believed that when someone dies, a crow carries their soul to the land of the dead. But sometimes something so bad happens that a terrible sadness is carried with it and the soul can't rest. Then sometimes the crow can bring back that soul to put the wrong things right. So she says that at the beginning of the movie. So I felt like, and then when they're showing the eye view, the POV of the crow, and you could see like the crow's looking at the guy in Tintin, and he's always present when he's doing something. And then when he's not present, you start, I guess at that point you had already figured that out, like you said, correct? Like as it got later on, like when the crow gets damaged, it doesn't have the power.
A few things I wish I could explain it better. I just remember sitting there going, I was confused. And again, maybe I just wasn't in the right space when I started watching it, because I did end up watching it in 2 separate sittings just because timing and things.
And like the look on his face when he gets shot at the end, when the crow's already kind of like captured whatever, and he's like now human, sort of basically invulnerable, and the guy shoots him in the church or whatever it was, like the look of like, oh God, like it's kind of like the look of it's almost similar. It reminded me of in a weird way, like I always think of some other film sometimes, but reminds me of the look on Mel Gibson's face when he got betrayed by by Bruce, and he like looks at him like, oh. Yeah. And then he kind of lays back down and dies, or not dies, but like lays down. Yeah, like the quotes too. Like I'm sure John probably picked up the John Milton. The quote, the abashed the devil stood and felt how awful goodness is. So from what I read about that, because I remember looking up that quote, the actor who reads that in the flashback used that as kind of his motivation. He would go to the poems of John Milton or something, and he was reading that book supposedly, and that's somehow how that's like interesting, like how he got in there was some connection with the actor, I recall doing that. And then he says it twice, once in the flashback when they're doing the murder of the 2, and then he does it obviously before when he's getting tied to the car and about to go off the bridge or whatever and blown up or whatever. So yeah, so there's just like a lot of good, like the quotes in there are just like, it's just a very quotable movie. I have used the "can't rain all the time" numerous times in my life. When it like keeps raining like this, and I'll say something to kids, I was like, "Can't rain all the time." I'm the only one who gets it because these kids haven't seen the movie, but I just use it still all the time.
What was the line? There's the one line. It's like a jolly. What is it? A jolly group of nicknames for a jolly group of pirates or something like that. A whole jolly club with jolly pirate nicknames.
Yeah. Let's see.
Somebody took his blades and stuck them in all of his organs alphabetically.
Our friend T-Bird won't be joining us this evening on account of a slight case of death.
Slight case of death, yeah.
And then when the other guy was just going completely breathing and high and, oh, T-Bird, I'm listening, T-Bird, I'm listening, right here's to you, T-Bird. It was like, whoa, that's, a little bit intense. But then like the 2 main bad guys are looking at each other like, shut this guy up. I mean.
Yeah. Well, and in this one, I don't know if I should drop the F-bomb or you edit it out, but it's like, it's so good for it because that character is a villain. Again, I don't know if you're talking, I know it like pertains to one of the questions a little bit about like what his, like that guy's movies, but when he shoots the pawn shop guy, or not shoots him, stabs him in the throat, and the guy's like, and he just says the line, he's like, "Say, die, will you?" It's like, so it's just like a classic. Like this guy is like, you don't want to mess with this guy. So I think even in the short amount of time, I don't know how much again work. I just get the idea that this guy's bad, and he's smart. Where the other guys are his goons who are dumb. He's actually extremely intelligent and evil, which is scarier. And there's just something about his character. Throwback to the Dark Knight. I always think when he walks in with the makeup and they're all the bad guys are around the table and he sits on there, it reminds me of the scene when the Joker comes in and meets all the gangsters. Yeah. With the knife and that whole thing. It kind of reminds me of the scene, the way he just kind of walks in right into the lion's den, basically, with him and just kind of sits on the table.
Yeah. I do like that. I was looking at the list of quotes, and they have the one. I saw him. The Grange guy is talking to Top Dollar, and he's like, "I saw him too. He had a guitar. He winked at me before he jumped out of the 4th floor window like he had wings. He winked at you, musicians."
Yeah, it's just, they go whole jolly club with jolly pirate nicknames, I suppose, yeah.
Our Fun Boys line, look what you've done to my sheets.
Yeah.
Like he's bleeding
that was
everywhere.
humorous.
Yeah, that is another one. Yeah, I was going to write that one down.
Like, man, those sheets really tied the room together.
Yeah, no, it's just I just love the dialogue in this film. And then it, like you said, it's got the very cool ones, but then it's got the very tender ones too, which also throw in the fact that Brandon died in the film, in the making of the film, and it has it's just a weird vibe to it, but touching and bittersweet, and and the main ones I think, which also points to the author, to what's his name's is it O'Hara, right? I think.
Which one?
O'Hara? The writer, the guy who wrote
Obar.
Obar, yeah, Obar. The things like, it's funny, so you say it's funny, little things, but nothing is trivial. That whole one about the little things. Mm-hmm. Forget the exact wording of it. Let's see. Dead Bang too, that was a good one. Supposed to be a clown or something. Here, little things used to mean so much to Shelley. I used to think they were kind of trivial. Believe me, nothing is trivial. It's just gold. For like knowing that it was the guy who wrote this, he was dealing with the death of a fiance from a drunk driver. There's also two things too, like one of the trivia things I didn't get to add to was there were two things that stirred the way he wrote the film. One was obviously, yes, the motivation was him dealing with the death of his fiance, but the second was there was a story in the news that he had seen where a couple was actually killed over a $20 ring or something, engagement ring or something like that. And that was another motivation factor that led the story to go in that direction. So he kind of combined the two. The death of wasn't a drunk driver; it was the murder thing. But yeah, that was the two causes there. The really real world. This can't be you. This is the really world.
All right, I think it's time for 3 questions.
He asks each traveler 5 questions. 3 questions. 3 questions.
It's impossible to answer.
Impossible because you don't know the answer.
Nobody could answer that question.
I want to ask you a bunch of questions. I want to have them answered immediately.
What you just said is one of the most insanely idiotic things I have ever heard. At no point in your rambling, incoherent response were you even close to anything that could be considered a rational thought. Everyone in this room is now dumber for having listened to it. I award you no points, and may God have mercy on your soul.
All right, question number 1. What is your favorite use of a bird in a movie, TV show, or literature? Once upon a midnight dreary, while I pondered, weak and weary, over many a quaint and curious volume of forgotten lore. I don't care whether you do the Edgar Allan Poe reading of the poem or it's the Simpsons version, or it really doesn't matter to me. But any iteration of the Raven, I'm all good for that. With I have a runner-up, but I don't want to steal anybody else's, so I'll say that one for now, and then we'll come back to it. But
and this is the best use of a bird.
What is your favorite use of a bird in a movie, TV show, book?
Does Howard the Duck count as a bird?
Yes. Yeah.
I think he does, Dennis. I think he does.
Yeah.
You said the word, the favorite or least favorite?
Favorite, but I mean, we know that that's your favorite, so.
Yeah, you've already said it.
Yeah,
I mean,
so Pat,
we've got the recording.
Yeah,
I don't know
Pat,
what. I don't understand.
Pat, what was yours? Dennis gave his answer, so Pat, what's yours?
Oh boy, I see how this is going.
John's gonna splice together. I was wrong, and then he'll put about Howard the Duck.
I'm glad you figured that out.
Yep.
This is how this works now. This is how we're rolling now.
His favorite portrayal of a bird in any movie or TV show.
Favorite use or favorite portrayal?
I'm a big fan of comedy, and I'm a big fan of humor, and I love the penguins from Madagascar.
Mm-hmm.
Those guys crack me up in all their iterations.
Mm-hmm.
So
I did those. Yeah, that's my favorite part of that movie.
It's so good.
I think Hedwig from Harry Potter.
Solid choice. That was on my list.
Yeah.
That's
beautiful owl.
It's a beautiful owl, and just that's kind of the whole. That's Hedwig's theme is the Harry Potter theme. Well, no, Harry has his own theme, but like when you think of Harry Potter, we think of Hedwig's theme. And I'm spoilers for Harry Potter.
Harry's a wizard.
Okay. Harry's a wizard, but no. How do I say this? Because I don't want to spoil it all. But when you see Hedwig's full arc, there's a huge emotional impact with that one as well. So,
yeah,
I think I'll go with Hedwig.
I would have maybe said Hedwig as well. For some reason, it popped up right away, and I was just thinking all the birds in the movie The Birds.
Yeah, there you go.
But that's not
a solid use of.
Yeah, there's not one particular bird though, so I would go with maybe Zazu from The Lion King.
Oh, solid. Yes, the John Oliver version.
Yeah.
Yes. Outstanding.
And then again, this movie, I guess I'm throwing that out and thinking outside of something else. But like, God, this is just, I think it's a good use of this, I mean, the crow gets the lady at the end, which is just, satisfying because she's just twisted. It's
that's a little weird.
It's a little weird. There's a whole, and that's all you needed was a weird vibe. Like when they wake up and the one girl's dead, and they're like, I think we broke her. It's just like,
I was
just twisted. And even the shopkeeper calls him, I think you twisted. Like is like even he has some sort of morals of that you guys have like surpassed. But
right. One of the trivia things that I forgot to mention that I absolutely wanted to make sure that I mentioned this one because I don't know if you guys had heard it or not. When they met with the executives from the movie studio, they wanted to make The Crow a musical starring Michael Jackson. Had you guys heard that one?
No.
I had read that, yes.
Yeah. That James O'Barr, the author, I think this is on the Crow DVD extras. He's being interviewed. And he said that when he met with the executives, they wanted to make this a musical starring Michael Jackson as the Crow. And he thought it was a joke, so he started laughing at them. They were very, very serious.
Wow.
So imagine that. Imagine this movie as a spiritual successor to Moonwalker.
Oh God, yeah.
Uh-huh.
And there is supposed to be a new version of this coming out.
Is it really? I was kind of wondering if they were going to.
Yeah, there is.
If they're going to redo it.
It said something about 2024, and I obviously balk at that right away and just be like, why?
Yeah.
Number one. But the only thing that would give me some hope, a glimmer, I still don't want it to happen, would be that, but the same graphic novel guy is writing, is part of the screenplay writing, supposedly.
Here's what I would love to see. Do it as an anthology TV series. Like different people become the Crow. Different reasons for the Crow to come back, different means of vengeance, different whatever. Ruwenge. Yeah. Yeah, that's what I would love to see.
Yeah. I think there was something either in the graphic novel. I don't know if it was the graphic novel, but I remember reading somewhere that it was also slightly different, that they were going to have that if he could only be trying to really get vengeance for the dead. So for, in this case, his fiance, Shelley, and that if he was helping someone else, it didn't work and he was vulnerable. And there was some sort of plan that there was some sort of story written in where he goes to help somebody being picked on by somebody else who's alive, something like that or whatever.
Gotcha. And
somehow he's vulnerable at that point. There was I remember reading something about that somewhere too. Okay. So there was just changes in the script that were here and there that they kind of changed around, but
yeah. Okay, so some of my runners-up for the birds, I would have said the birds, the Hitchcock birds. The other one, I went with a slightly different owl. I went with the barn owl from Labyrinth. So that would have been one of mine. And I was there were a bunch of others that I had in mind, but I was like, nope, it's owl from Labyrinth, birds, and that's good. And the raven. All right. Question number 2. What's your favorite hero or villain who wears face paint? You're staring at me like I'm a bad man. Why? What?
I'm going to go back to the last question and throw in a quick honorable mention.
Yeah.
Sam the Eagle.
Oh, yeah.
There you go.
And Big Bird.
Yeah.
I'd say you could throw Big Bird in there, too, yeah.
You are all weirdos. Oh, I know what I meant to mention. I meant to mention the power animal penguin in Fight Club.
There you go.
Slide. Yeah. All right. Sam the Eagle. Good call. Very, very American call. You're such a patriot, Pat.
I am a patriot.
Yeah. All right. Favorite hero or villain who wears face paint?
I'm going to pull a Mazuka, and I'm going to give 2 answers. I'm going to go hero, and I'm going to say the Crow in this case. And then I'm going to also say I got to go with the Joker. Just
Jack Nicholson, Heath Ledger?
No, the Heath Ledger version.
Yeah.
Not even the Joaquin Phoenix, I feel like, is pretty impressive, but
yeah.
Like, I think that might be my second place. You know, it's definitely not Jared Leto, but
you don't like your Jokers all tatted up?
Oh God, that was bad.
The from the Oscar-winning movie Suicide Squad.
Yeah, jeez. Ugh. But yeah, so I mean, those two, like, I know they sound easy, but they're just so good. And I think in this one, they also talk about the face paint with Brandon Lee that they tried. It was off a marionette mask or something like that, or a puppet or whatever. It was where they originally had it, and I think that's kind of why they then throw that mask up on the thing. But basically, when they first did it, it was too bright because it was like makeup or whatever, something like that, and it looked too clean. And I guess they were saying Brandon Lee was also often sleeping in this overnight, so that it looked more worn. If you notice, they tried to keep its same consistency, so they didn't want to keep painting it over or whatever. So it kind of fades as the movie goes on a bit as well, anyway, to a certain degree. He doesn't go keep putting it back on.
Right.
And if you notice by the end of the film, it's just kind of like you see the smile, but you don't see all the white on him again. So it made it very realistic, like this was happening in real time. So I think that's just a great scene too, just putting on the makeup. And then the song, we didn't even talk about the music, but God, the soundtrack to this is awesome. The Cure Burn song is just phenomenal. Have you ever heard that thing live, which I have this past year from The Cure? Yeah, it's still, they played it at their concert. It's just a great, strong performance live too. Stone Temple Pilots and a great soundtrack. Trent Reznor.
What else we got?
Beetlejuice.
Face paint wise, you going Beetlejuice?
Mm-hmm.
That's a good one.
Solid.
There's a couple honorable mentions in there, but I think Beetlejuice is the winner for me.
Did I ever ask you guys?
If not the Joker, I could say the Joker in any of its iterations. Jack Nicholson. I mean, come on. But I think Beetlejuice.
Did I ever ask you guys if any of you went to go see the Beetlejuice musical?
No,
I have not seen it. No.
It is
not, but some friends of Donna's did and said it was very good.
It was outstanding. I believe it's coming back to Chicago in March. So if you get an opportunity, definitely go check it out. It was outstanding. I had a great time. It was probably one of the most fun theater experiences I've had recently. For me, I was kind of doing the same thing. I was like, well, you got the Joker. You've got part of me wants to go William Wallace from Braveheart, which I might do that. Some of the other options were you had some of the crazy face paint stuff going on in Mad Max Fury Road.
Clown from It.
What's that?
Clown from It.
Yeah, I might do William Wallace. I kind of thought Pat was going to go with when Schwarzenegger is putting on all the paint in Commando.
That was one of the ones I was thinking of.
Was it? Okay.
I was definitely thinking of that. The other one is, this might seem like the outside choice, but you know the Brotherhood of the Wolf?
Yeah.
When his native, the buddy, goes in like the full makeup and goes on the hunt there, he just looks really cool.
Yeah.
So I'd have to say that's like the one that just popped into my head like first thought. So I'm going with that.
Okay.
I thought somebody was going to say maybe The Mask, or I thought John might have thrown in David Bowie from Labyrinth.
Oh, see, I wasn't thinking of that as face paint.
He has it on, so I don't know.
You know what I should have said though, especially if I was answering this as a kid. Actually, I'm gonna amend my answer, and I'm gonna answer this as if I'm 8 years old. I'm gonna say the Ultimate Warrior.
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
From WWF. That's my answer.
Who was the W?
What's that?
The villain or Arrow?
He was a hero to me. I think he was probably a villain to all the mounds of cocaine he probably did.
Who was the wrestler that dressed up like the Crow? And I don't know if he meant to dress up.
The Undertaker? No, it wasn't.
No, Sting was the guy's name.
Sting. Okay.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm letting my former WWF fan. It's my fandom is showing.
That's fine. I'm asking. I'm asking because I want an answer.
Well, and that fandom stops in about 1993, so we're already getting beyond my knowledge.
The Johnny Depp Mad Hatter.
Oh yeah.
And Alice in Wonderland's pretty good.
Yeah.
We already talked about the Joker. Ralph Fiennes and Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, I know we talked about people with gravelly voices earlier, but question number 3, what is your favorite Michael Wincott role?
That's easy for me. Robin Hood.
There you go.
Guy of Gisborne.
Yep.
Been struggling with Guy of Gisborne versus Rochefort in Three Musketeers.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, it's basically the same character, so maybe that's why I'm struggling.
I mean, I honestly think it's, for me, those are all good. And Robin, those are all great. I do like his character in The Crow still is probably one of his favorite.
Yeah.
I would put in the top 3, probably behind the Robin Hood one, then would be Along Came a Spider as well.
One of my favorites, because I kind of knew that Robin Hood and Three Musketeers would get taken as well, and The Crow. So one of my other ones is, and you guys know I love this one, Count of Monte Cristo from 2002.
Mm-hmm.
He plays Dorliac, who's the kind of like the warden of the Chateau d'If prison.
Yes.
And he is just, he's so funny in that one because he's so sadistic, but he's also so bored.
Yeah.
And he's just like some of the little comments that he makes. He's just, yeah. It's sadistic ennui is what I'm going to call it.
Now, I haven't seen this movie in a very long time, but the image of him in 1492 Conquest of Paradise might as well be Guy of Gisborne and Rochefort, just dressed differently. He definitely was typecast for a hot minute in there.
Yeah. I actually forgot he was in Alien Resurrection.
Huh? Yeah.
Yeah.
He's got a very interesting. He was Old Bill in the Westworld TV show. He was on 24. It's a very interesting history he's got.
Well, and wasn't he? Did you guys see the movie Nope?
I have not, but this is reminding me to.
He's pretty good in that. He's good in that one too.
Wasn't he the photographer that comes out to the farm?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's in that.
Is Nope a good one? You guys recommend that one?
It has its potential. It was okay, but I was a little disappointed. I think I was expecting more.
It's quirky.
Yeah, it's not bad. I mean, it's worth a watch. It's not, but it's not like go see it at the theater or anything right now. Yeah. But if it comes along on your Netflix or whatever, it's worth a watch.
Yeah,
definitely quirky.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is it for the 3 questions. That is it for this episode. Any final parting thoughts?
Because this is one of my top 10 favorite movies.
Yeah.
I'm gonna throw a couple more in
I'm never going to get you to do your top 10 episodes, so let's just do it right now.
Gotta piece them together.
There's a couple things again, because like John, like this is, I know you do this for a lot of your film, a lot of the movies, but like this one I definitely took some notes on as I was watching it, but like all the things that kind of stuck out. But one thing we didn't mention was I love the use of color with the flashbacks. So the whole film is set in this very dark, dreary world with rain all the time, and then you have the flashbacks.
Rain all the time.
flashbacks are where you only really, there's really the movie where you see color. Even like you don't really see the blood color when people get killed as much, but it's kind of dark. And then they have the red and blue in the background, and I don't know if that's like works with the passion of like the color of their relationship, because a lot of that, some of that had to do with when they were showing them as a couple. I just think that like in the moments that you see where like they're cooking dinner and he's like, oh, restaurant, like all those little bits, it's like you really believe that these two people love each other so much. So I think it's just masterfully done through those flashbacks to me, that you feel like the love and therefore you feel the pain for this. Like, it's weird that you didn't have to see them alive together before that, like as the movie started, and you don't see them then get killed. It all happens in flashbacks, and somehow it's communicated so well that God. And then when she comes walking down at the end of the movie, and she's walking towards the grave, and there's the reunite, and they're now both at peace. Like, it's like God. It's just, I think it's just a powerful part. But anyway, I'm going to go with two last quotes of this that we didn't cover, and that would be the one that's one of the dark ones that I kind of like, which was really one of his coolest ones, where he's like, he was already dead. He died a year ago. The moment he touched her, they're all dead. They just don't know it yet. Like, that's a cool line. That's a Pat line. Anyway, it's like the hands in the pocket line for Pat. They better stay that way. But
I'm getting ready for GVC tomorrow with that one.
Yeah, they're all dead. They just don't know.
I'm just telling you guys. I don't know if you guys know, but you're already dead. Like from the moment we walked in and started putting up the GVC stuff on the slideshow, they were already dead at that point.
You just don't know it yet. Yeah. And then the counter that with the love story one, which is, I believe it's the last line in the film and spoken by the girl so eloquently, I won't do it justice, but if the people we love are stolen from us, the way to have them live on is to never stop loving them. Buildings burn, people die, but real love is forever. Damn, it's a freaking great movie. I love this movie.
Yeah. I don't want to preempt your final quote and everything. I love it. Okay, because you brought the ending when he drags himself to the grave, and then the last thing is he just collapses, and that collapse was like a kerthump. Like, that was like, oh, and then he reaches out to touch the headstone. That was such a powerful scene. And what I love is, like, okay, he's at rest, and it gets into personal beliefs and all that kind of stuff. But I love it when movies then give their image of what happens afterwards. And I just love that she's there bringing him home. I or at least that's how I perceived it to be. I just love that ending of how they tie it together.
Yeah.
And like I said, it's just a weird thing of like, you don't really have a bunch of scenes where they're together. They're all snippet flashbacks that happen, like really like broken up.
Yeah.
Yet somehow you feel like this was such a great relationship that got destroyed, and makes it somehow even just more tragic and more evil from them. And so it's it's weird that like you don't really hear her talk too much. I don't think she has too many lines. And I'm like, but somehow she's just like the perfect future wife for him that would have been. And he was in the way they were with the little girl and kind of taking her in, like they were almost like they can be the perfect parents, the perfect everything. And it's like, and this all got taken away because of some jerk. And it's like, I just love the film, man. Yeah. I don't know if I said that.
A couple times, maybe.
Judge Dennis, final judgment. What do you think of this movie?
Oh, freaking awesome, man.
He gives it 8 knives in a corpse out of 8.
And I'm just curious, and I just wonder though, like too, if it's because, again, I know Bo saw it now, and I don't know if I would say it not holding up, like, because I think it holds up very well, but like John said, it's very 90s. It's got that music video sort of style, but I think it's just also, I think watching it back then with somehow that sort of weird spiritual presence of like a Brandon Lee, and just like, I don't know if that plays into the more powerful, because it's about a guy who died, like he gets killed, and in the movie, like he dies literally for the film. Like, it's so all these quotes about like the little things and the trivial things, it's like it seems to hit harder and like connect. And if you've ever lost people that are close, it's just, there is that kind of, how do you fix it? And if it was somebody that was like in the case of the drunk driver, like you're so angry, what do you do with that anger, and does it get solved? And can you just, it would be nice to be able to say, I'll kill all the bad people that did this to them and I'll have peace. Like, I think we wish that would happen, but when it's cancer, or when it's a car accident, or when it's something else that takes that person, there is no villain to kill. There's nobody that you can take out. So I think that having that cathartic sort of moment where in this movie you are able to do that and achieve peace is maybe part of the power of, you wish that were true, that you could just do it like that, you know?
Yeah.
And the guy says, I think, who wrote this, that it didn't work. That when he wrote this, he was just getting angrier.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know? And it just shows, like, you can't, and that's why I think that quote about loving people is maybe the heart of what he came to, is you can't go and kill the drunk driver and then make yourself feel better. You can't. It's all you can do is love that person, and there's always going to be that wound.
Yeah.
May heal, may move on, but so it's a very interesting grief movie as well as a love story and vengeance story.
Yeah.
And yeah, I really like this movie.
You said that a couple times, I think. Yeah. All right, everybody. Well, we do really love this movie. This is a great movie. If you haven't watched it, we've just spoiled the whole thing for you, but go watch it. I mean, it's well worth a watch, even if we spoiled it all.
Ever release it, go see it, because I know that they do it sometimes from around Halloween times or whatever, and I know that it was probably back to relatively recent in the 90s, but at IMAX they did it at the Navy Pier Theater, and we went and saw it. Was the last time I saw it. So I saw it twice at IMAX.
Oh, nice. All right, well, for the rest of February, it is our Vengeance/Rowenge month. Our Patreon episode is Revenge of the Nerds from 1984. Patreon short is the Razzie Worst film Color of Night from 1994. This week was The Crow. Next week, we've got The Specialist with Sylvester Stallone and Sharon Stone. Pulp Fiction is after that, then Lion King, and then we get into March. That is the What Evil Lurks in the Hearts of Men month, starting off with The Shadow, because he knows what evil lurks in the hearts of men. Clear and Present Danger, Natural Born Killers, The Shawshank Redemption, and then our Patreon episodes are Rear Window from 1954 and the Patreon short Felidae from 1994, which is going to be weird. So buckle up. It's weird stuff. We already shared in a previous episode, but yeah, I'm kind of looking forward to that one, ? We'll see how it goes.
And I'm Ron Burgundy.
I'm Ron Burgundy? And I'm looking forward to this movie? Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Pat. Thank you, Dennis. Thank you, Bo.
Thank you, John.
Thank you, guys. Great time. Great movie.
All right, everybody. Be excellent to each other. Go watch some good movies. And remember, can't rain all the time.
I really like this movie.
Hey, Dennis, before we go, I forgot to ask, do you like this movie?
I love this movie.